So welcome to this segment as we continue with our revisions. We're trying to help you. Let's look at C2 from the 2023 question paper. It says, study the flow diagram shown and answer the questions that follow. Yeah, so you can watch out the other video if you didn't take time to watch that. So they have given us a flow chart. You need to remember your qualitative analysis, very important, and a lot of reaction should be part of you so that you are able to answer such questions there. So they have told us solution P reacts with aqueous silver nitrate and it produces a precipitate, a white precipitate, which is of course an insoluble salt. Then the same solution P reacts with zinc metal to produce solution Q plus hydrogen. Now this gives you an idea. Solution Q and hydrogen gives you an idea, what reacts with metals to produce hydrogen gas. Obviously it is an acid, so this solution P should be an acid, because for it to react with a metal to produce this solution, meaning that when acid reacts with metals, they produce a salt and hydrogen gas. So at least it gives you, an idea. So that's how you can do it. Then the same, when it reacts with silver nitrate, it produces a white precipitate. Now, since in this case, it produces a white precipitate there, and this was silver nitrate, obviously, the name of the acid would have been hydrochloric acid, of course, in aqueous, because when hydrochloric acid reacts with silver nitrate, when it reacts with silver nitrate there, it will produce silver chloride. Silver chloride is a precipitate, which is white there in color. Then the salt, when hydrochloric acid reacts with zinc, it will produce up a salt we are calling as being zinc chloride, and hydrogen will be produced there. So the question was saying identify, R. So R should have actually been, silver chloride. So that could have been silver chloride. So please go back on your qualitative notes if you're struggling. Then P should have been hydrochloric acid, HCl. So it should have been hydrochloric acid. Then it says name the salt that would be produced if solution P reacted with sodium metal. So look at this, when sodium metal reacted with hydrochloric acid, what are you going to have? You're going to have sodium chloride and hydrogen gas. So the question was saying name the salt. So the salt that they wanted here is simply sodium, chloride. So sodium chloride is basically the name of the salt that would have been produced if solution P reacted with the, sodium metal. I hope that is simple for you to comprehend or to understand. And let's look at, the other aspect, question C. It says, what safety rule would a learner observe when carrying out experiment described in the diagram? Remember, acids are simply corrosive. So what you could do, number one, such a pupil would actually, wear, safety, you could actually wear safety gloves, to prevent, corrosion, or to prevent damage, of hands. That's what you could have done. Number two, what you could have done is that, wear also safety, goggles. So you can also wear safety goggles, to protect eyes. So you want to protect the eyes. Why? Because acid can actually splash into your eyes. So you want to prevent that. And hence you can either wear safety gloves or you can wear, safety goggles to protect your eyes in that case. Then it says, in which period of the periodic table is the non-metal element in solution Q found? Explain your answer. So if you look at that, I'll try to see if I can answer D from here. So HCl in solution Q. Solution Q is solution Q is zinc chloride. So the non-metallic element is simply chlorine. That's what they're talking about. Now if you look at Cl, the proton number is 2. In this case, the electronic configuration is 2 comma 8, comma 7. So the question says in which period. So remember, chlorine is actually in group 7 because there are 7 electrons in the outermost shell. So in terms of the period, how many shells have been filled with electron? This is the first shell, the second shell, the third shell. So how many have been filled with electron? There are 3. 1, 2, 3. So meaning that it is actually in period 3. Why? So they wanted you to explain your answer. It's because, you know, the element, so we can simply say the element has 3, shells, filled with electrons, because the number of shells filled with electrons will simply tell you the period to which that element belongs. So that's what they wanted you to do there. Right, let's move on to our last one there. And if you look at our last question there, I'll answer it from here. It was saying, describe how crystals of solution Q can be obtained from the solution. So they want us to describe how can, crystals of solution Q be obtained from solution. So solution Q is actually a soluble, salt. So how can you do that? In most cases, when you notice, there's no water that is actually there because the gas was the one that was actually produced. So you cannot heat any water that is there because this produced just hydrogen gas. So how describe how crystals can be obtained from the solution. So what you can do is that I can simply say that maybe number 1, these are steps. So you can simply heat solution Q to create a saturated solution and allow it to cool, to form more crystals. So that's what you do basically. So you can actually do that. All right, so after it cools to form up crystals, I can simply say dry dry the crystals between filter paper in the sun or oven. Remember, there was no water that was produced, so it wouldn't be prudent on your part to start heating the water because you don't have water in there. The gas was what was produced, unless you added water and you wanted it to happen that way. Then that's when you could have mentioned that. So that's why I've actually gone directly. So please watch out, as in my next video I'm going to help you to see how you can answer this question under organic chemistry. Thank you so much for watching. If you love what we do, please you can subscribe to our channel so that you'll receive notification each time we produce a video, be it in physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, and even those that are doing pure sciences, watch out your series as well, and even additional mathematics.